You are listening to 52 Ways, a podcast by Scott and Christian Milford.
This is how you love one another, love one another.
Hey, good afternoon, good morning, good evening, whatever time it is. Welcome to the 52 Ways podcast. We're so glad that you're here with us. My name's Scott Milford, and I'm your host. And to add the color commentary to the discussion, this is Christian Milford. You ever heard of that phrase before?
No,
color commentary.
What does that mean?
It's a sports phrase.
What does it mean?
It means it's like when the two announcers are announcing the game. There's the guy that's doing the play-by-play, and then there's also the color commentary. And the color commentary is like the Mike Shannon of the duo, where he's like saying funny things. He's adding in,
I'm fun, you're boring.
Pretty much, yeah. And usually the play-by-play guy does most of the talking, and I tend to do most of the talking here. And then you chime in with like brilliant pearls of wisdom.
Yep.
And it works out
smart, guys.
Pretty well. Well, welcome everybody. This is week 7. We're on week 7 already.
We are?
Yeah.
That's a lot.
And I got to say, I'm really proud of what we've done so far. I know we're not supposed to be prideful, but maybe this is like the good kind of pride, you know?
Yeah.
But I think we've come up with some really great discussions and content, and love the questions and the discussion I've gotten from a few people that are listening. And it's just a few people at this point.
Few people.
Yeah. So we need all of you to help us, because right now we've got an audience of, it's probably in the 20 to 30 range.
I thought we had about 3 or 4.
No, we get a lot more than that, but it's 20 to 30, I would say. But man, we want to make that 200 to 300.
We do.
I did take out an ad on Facebook this past week and promoted it. Didn't really do a whole lot.
What does that mean?
I paid like $10 to promote the podcast through a Facebook post.
Why did you do that?
To try to get more people to listen
Did it work?
to it. No, it didn't.
But
it was worth a shot.
You just wasted $10?
Yeah, I did. I pretty much threw it away. But hey, what we're doing here, if you're just tuning in for the first time, what we're doing is we're trying to help heal the world. I mean, that sounds grandiose.
Now, can you make this next part very short?
Yes.
Every time.
I know. No, not
you say your conclusion, and then you say the intro at and they're both the same, and then they're
supposed to be. You know what it is that when you public speak, you tell them what you're going to tell them, and then you tell them, and then you told them that you told them. You tell them what you told them.
Yeah, but you're doing that every single time.
I know. No, last time I didn't. Last time it was like 15 seconds. And because you asked me to keep it short, that has actually made it longer now.
Dang it.
But we're trying to heal the world, because we live in a messed up,
political divided world. Blah, 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 blah.
That's the tagline. That's the phrase. It is. I mean, it just is. There's no doubt about it.
He's right.
We have forgotten as Christians to do what Jesus told us to do, and that is to love one another the way that he loved us. And if we just did that better, this world would be so much better. You ever heard what BIBLE stands for?
Yes, that's the book for me. No.
That's the song, but what's the letters actually stand for?
It's one of these stupid acronyms that
it is, remembers. But it's good though. It's an acronym, but it's good. It's basic instructions before leaving Earth.
Oh,
and so even if you're not a Christian, but if you do the things that Jesus taught us to do, you're going to be a better person.
Wait, did that Armstrong dude?
What?
Did that Armstrong dude read it?
What are you talking about?
The first person to leave Earth.
Oh,
Armstrong.
Neil Armstrong.
Yeah, Neil Armstrong.
Is that one of your color commentary?
Haha, guys, that was so funny. That's real.
That was like
real
dad joke.
Neil slapper.
Dad joke quality.
They say knee slapper.
So where we're at right now in this whole conversation is we are in the middle of the Sermon on the Mount. And honestly, when I started this whole idea, the plan was to go through the Gospels, the life and times of Jesus.
Mark.
Well, we're in Matthew.
Sorry, Matthew.
But the idea was to go through, and every time he interacted with somebody in the writing or in the narration of his life, we would study that. But as I got into it, I was like, there's all this stuff, like these lessons that he just taught us. And there's the times where he interacted with people. So the way this is playing out is it's a combination. You yawning over there?
No.
It's a combination of both the things he taught us and the actions that he took. And we're in the Sermon on the Mount right now, which, holy moly, there's so much content in here that has to do with him saying, here's how you love people. Here's how you do it. And this is what he, before he left Earth, told us we should go do, the new commandment. So we're still in the Sermon on the Mount. We're in chapter 7, which is the last chapter of the Sermon on the Mount. So we are just about done. Did you with me?
I was daydreaming.
Yeah, you were. Okay. So we're wrapping up the Sermon on the Mount here, but here we are again with this massively huge verse. I forget how many
I think we should read it.
massively huge verses are in the Sermon on the Mount. It is insane. You want to read this first part?
No, I'm bad at reading.
You're bad at reading? Okay. So chapter 7, verse 1 of Matthew says, "Do not judge others, and you will not be judged. For you will be treated as you treat others. The standard you use in judging is the standard by which you will be judged." So this is all about the way that we handle judgment against one another. And now when you read this, it's so clear. It's saying, don't judge others.
But it says later to judge others.
It does. So there's some context here. So this isn't like a blanket statement that says never judge somebody. There's a place for that.
Keep on reading.
And there's a way to do that.
No.
You want me to keep on reading?
Yeah.
Okay. So I always feel like if I read the whole
fine.
thing, it gets really boring really fast. Okay.
No, it doesn't.
Verse 3 says, "And why worry about a speck in your friend's eye when you have a log in your own?" Now, I hope everybody realizes that's supposed to be kind of funny.
is.
Jesus is talking in hyperbole, which is like, extremes here. He could have just said, don't be a hypocrite. Don't judge people whenever you got sin in your own life. But no, he pulls out this whole imagery about a speck in somebody else's eye and a log shooting out of your own eye socket.
Yeah, so
There's some humor there.
Yeah, sure. If that's humor back in the day, yeah. Haha.
You got a problem with Jesus'
So
sense of
funny.
humor?
No, I don't. It's so funny. One thing about this part is that most people, whenever they read this verse, are like, okay, you're never supposed to judge anyone ever. That's not true. So if Daddy, you can want to keep on reading, it actually says when the appropriate time to judge people
Yeah.
is.
So then it goes on to say, "So how can you think of saying to your friend, 'Let me help you get rid of the speck in your eye,' when you can't see past the log in your own eye? Hypocrite," it says. So don't be a hypocrite. And nobody likes a hypocrite, even though we all are hypocrites, but nobody likes a hypocrite. So first, get rid of the log in your own eye. Then you will see well enough to deal with the speck in your own, you will deal with the speck in your friend's eye.
Yeah.
It's really simple. Like if you have a blindfold on or you have something massive in your eye and you're closing your eyes and you can't see enough to know what's what, there's no way you're going to find a little speck in somebody else's eye. You're blinded by your own mess.
Yeah. So there's two ways to look at this. One is the idea of like sin as a whole and saying, if you are sinful, which everyone is, then you don't have the right to judge that other person. So if you have a log, we're basically comparing log to the general aspect of us sinning. Then you have no right to say that someone else is sinning or to say what they're doing is wrong. And that's completely not true at all. What Jesus is talking about in this verse and part of the Sermon on the Mount, he's talking about specific sin, like I don't know, stealing. And if you guys have trouble with stealing, then don't tell other people not to. I'm not where I can go. What are you gonna do?
We're fine.
Oh no. Okay. If you have a problem with murdering, I know that's kind of.
So you think he's talking about?
He's talking about specific sins that you struggle with. And if you are struggling with those specific sins, you have no right to tell someone else or a friend or anyone that to not do those also. Okay. You need to fix that in your own life, and then you can tell that person.
So I'm not convinced that he's only talking about like apples to apples sin. Maybe he is. Mm-hmm. I never thought about it that way. You always bring these ideas in that I never thought about. He might be, and that could kind of fit into this next point that I want to make, which is, when you do judge, and let's face it, we all judge people to some degree, whether we say it out loud or not.
Whole thesis on that.
Yeah. When you do, though, just know that you will be judged the way that you judge others. Now, call me crazy, but I'm okay with God judging me fairly and with some mercy. I'm okay with being judged that way. I know that I'm not perfect, and I know that there's going to be things I do that's wrong. But if God judges me fairly, if I need to be punished, he punishes me, but he also does so with some mercy and some grace. And,
those are actually antonyms.
I know they are, but we talked about that a few weeks ago. Let's just stick with mercy then. So not giving a punishment that somebody deserves. That's mercy. So yeah, so I think that I'm okay with that. So if I judge others in that same way with fairness, mercy, then I think that what this verse is saying is, okay, that's a good way. If you're going to judge, that's a good way to judge.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I agree.
And to your point, like if it is specific, like stealing,
it is
that's
specific.
a fair like.
What do you think it is?
Well, I think it could be anything. Like, I think it's
well, then that's the first thing that I said that was not true, because everyone struggles with sin.
Yeah. Well, I agree. So the whole speck log in your eye thing,
Mm-hmm.
like, I don't know if we ever get the log out of our eye to clearly be able to see the speck in somebody else's eye.
He says once we do.
I know.
Which means that there's a time and period where people do.
Yeah.
Like, I don't struggle with murdering people.
Yeah.
And if I see a murder over there, I should go tell them, hey, you shouldn't murder. I have the right to go do that.
But the sin that is in your life can still blind you.
But it's still the specific. That's why it's a specific thing. Because why would you have that verse in there if he just said, he could have easily just said, don't judge others under any circumstance.
Yeah.
But he gave a certain time and situation when you are allowed to.
Yeah, that's a great question, because there's a part of me that's thought about this. He's basically saying never to judge, because we're never going to fully get the log out of our own eye.
No, he's not.
I don't know, like that's crossed my mind. But then of course there's other times where we are, as Christians, we are told to hold other believers accountable and even bring them before the elders and the pastors,
That's completely judging.
Yeah, but there's also, and that is.
So that's why my point's right and your point is wrong.
You might be right, my friend. You might be right indeed. Okay, so I think though we can land that thought by saying, yes, there is a time and a place, and there's a way to appropriately judge. I'm also reminded of the idea, which everybody's heard of, where hate the sin, love the sinner.
Love the sinner, yeah.
Yeah, and so don't hate the person just because they have a speck in their eye.
You can judge people in a loving way.
Yeah, and that's so
you can point out their flaws, saying, "Hey, look, I'm your friend. I'm doing this because I know it's best for you. I don't struggle with this particular sin, but I've noticed that you have been, and I wanted to point that out and talk to you about that."
So there's a way to approach people and address it that way. And even if they get the sense that we are playing God, that we are condemning them to hell for an eternity, the way that God does, I think that's also where we grossly are crossing the line and what Jesus is saying not to do.
There's a difference between, I've thought about this a lot. So there's a difference between people taking offense to something and us saying it in a mean way. And that's where there's like a gray line. And I have a whole other thesis on gray lines. How do I explain it? So if I say something in what 99% of the population would say would be a loving way to tell a friend that what they're doing is wrong, and they still take it as offense, it's kind of a hard line to say. Is where's the line where we say that it is actually on the person who is trying to convict the person, or is it on the person who is being convicted, to say that they unjustly tried to convict you in a harsh and mean way? Does that make sense?
It makes sense. And I think the point there is, when you're going to have a difficult conversation like this with somebody, whether it's your friend or your kid or your coworker or neighbor or whatever, your intent should be to use the fruits of the Spirit, like peace, self-control, gentleness, kindness, love, to use those fruits of the Spirit as you approach it. You still might screw it up. You still might, not realize that they're the 0.1% of the population that's going to take offense to it. But your intent,
but that's not on you,
right? If your intent is to handle it appropriately,
but the person might say it is on you, and that's the problem.
They might, but I'm not even worried about like who's to blame in that.
But
thing.
You made that as a point.
I did.
Yeah.
What did I say?
I don't fully remember, but I remember that you said that you need to say it in a loving way, and if you don't, then you would be playing God.
Yeah.
And so I was just saying that
I just think
if somebody gets mad at you and you try to convict that person of doing something wrong, it's actually impossible for outside viewers to say whether it was right or wrong. It's even outside. It's impossible for you and the person who you're trying to convict to say whether it was right or wrong or not. It's actually up to God.
Yep.
So
I just think the intent is the key there. And if your intent is in the right place, most of the time the person is going to at least have a chance to not be too offended. But
Sure.
people are always going to be offended when they feel judged.
Yep.
You know, and I think we have to know that the minute you walk into a judgmental space, there's probably going to be some sort of conflict. And so the way you handle that is going to be really, really important. Because if you appropriately address behavior issues, it does help the person in the long run. You know, if
they take heart, heed what
yeah,
people say in old times,
something like that.
To it.
But I mean, in that moment, it probably won't feel like you're helping them. But you know, it's like parents and kids and bosses and employees. Like if you correct behavior, and oftentimes it might be sinful behavior, it's going to help them in the long run. There's no doubt about it. But it just might be a painful journey to get there. So this idea of being a hypocrite, I think there's a lot of funny illustrations out there that I've seen. And I came up with these two little quotes that I think you're pretty unimpressed by.
I'm not impressed.
You're not impressed. So if you're like under age 25, you probably won't get these. If you're over, I think you might. So, you know, the idea of the speck and the log and all that, if you have caught yourself saying something such as,
can I read them? Because I'll make them sound worse than they are.
Okay, you can start.
Okay.
This is going to be bad.
Oh, wait. Where is it at?
Right here.
Okay. Stop being so mean, you stupid idiot.
Yeah. So
insert laugh.
Yeah, so that's bad. So, but the way it might actually be said is, stop being so mean, you stupid idiot, where you're being mean as you tell people not to be mean.
These are just examples of being hypocrite.
Yeah, being hypocrites. But this is real life. I mean, heck, I heard Reese say this to you just a couple of days ago.
Really?
Yeah. Like she was mad at you for being mean to her, and she just told you how mean you are, and that was kind of mean of her to say.
Yeah. So she said it in a mean way.
Yeah.
See?
And then the
I'm in the right.
Here. So
you have to you have to beeping stop cursing at school.
Yeah. So like a parent who's cussing at their kid.
I had no clue what that word. It wasn't even the bad word.
Listen.
What is that word?
Let me talk.
Sorry.
So it's like a parent who is cussing at their kid as they tell them to stop cussing at school.
Don't cuss, hypocrites.
Yeah. And so many parents are so accustomed to you throwing that language around, they don't even realize they're doing it. And then they're mad at their kid for doing it. No wonder their kid's doing it, you know? That is entirely common. In and outside of the church. There's no doubt about it.
Let's move on to the next verse. I want to talk about the pigs.
You want to talk about the pigs? I think I was lying about the pigs.
Oh, okay. Inside joke. Nobody knows what we're talking about.
All right. So read that last one, Christian.
Oh, where is it at?
Right here.
Don't waste what is holy on people who are unholy.
Don't throw your pearls to pigs.
Oh, okay. I think the first part's pretty important.
I think it all fits together.
Okay. Don't throw your pearls to the pigs. They will trample the pearls, then turn and attack you.
So let me hit this one first. So my thought on this
You're wrong.
is that when you can correct behavior, when you can appropriately and fairly and full of mercy, mercifully judge, that's the pearl here. That's the positive thing. But if you throw that on to somebody who assuredly is going to trample on it and even attack you, then Jesus is saying here, what's the point? Don't waste your time.
I'll be the devil's advocate again.
You like doing that.
Yeah, I do. So whenever they say don't wait, can you go? No, don't.
Oh, okay.
I forgot what I was about
to say.
Okay. Don't waste what is holy on people who are unholy. So to me, that doesn't fully make sense because Jesus specifically said that the sick don't need the
no, the sick do need.
Oh, the sick do needs the patient, or not the patient, the doctor, but the well people are the people who do not need Christ.
You feel like that flies.
So that kind of seems like the complete opposite.
But we're not Jesus.
Okay, what?
Maybe that's the idea. Like,
so therefore we're all unholy.
We are all unholy.
Okay, so then it says don't waste what is holy. So what is holy?
And my thought in the context of what we're talking about here, my thought is, helping somebody by pointing out the flaw in their behavior, the sin in their when you do that successfully, that's the gem here. That's
But
the
what's
pearl.
holy?
Well, I think that's it. Like,
So
so the holy thing
telling
is
someone
the
that
pearl.
they're sinning, if you don't struggle with that sin, is holy.
I think he's saying it's a pearl. It's a positive thing.
Mhm.
It's a good thing when done correctly. But if you do it to somebody who for sure is going to hate you for it, and you're going to get attacked, then don't waste your time. That's my take on this. Maybe there's more I need to study on that, but that feels right to me in terms of what Jesus is trying to teach us here.
I go back
because
to
it's going to cause conflict, and it's going to create hatred, and it's going to create animosity. And Jesus doesn't want us to promote those things. So let's not throw fuel on the fire here.
Yeah, I don't. And that's a judgment call for us to judge. And that's hard because we are not very good at judging things as the human race.
Like
assessing whether, hey, is it good for us to throw this pearl at this
But this
person?
fits the whole context of this podcast, 52 Ways to Love One Another. So, and I always talk about how we live in this messed up, divided world. Everybody hates each other. Social media is the driver of so much of this, and people are throwing bombs and they're calling people out. They're making up fake personas on social media, and they're throwing hatred around everywhere, and they're judging people like crazy on social media.
Get rid of it.
Christian doesn't like social media.
So really quickly, I think we should change the title of this whole podcast to 52 Ways to Love One Another and 52 and 1 Way to Not Love One Another.
Social media.
No. Right here.
Right here.
Don't waste on what is holy.
Okay.
On what is unholy.
People who are unholy. Okay. Maybe that's a kind of a long, wordy title.
Yeah, that is even wordier.
But I think this applies beautifully though to where we're at in our world right now. So we have to pick our fights. We have to pick our battles and not fight every single fight. As soon as somebody says something that you don't like, you're like, and you jump on them. I think that's picking a fight. And I think Jesus is saying here, don't pick a fight. Use your judgment, use your discernment.
Well, do it in a nice way. If you do what Dad just said.
But even if you do it in a nice way. But yeah, that's right. Well,
in all the social media, there's almost never a nice way that people say, hey, you're wrong.
Yeah. But I think what he's addressing here though is even doing it in the right way is futile if the person is for sure going to attack you for it. So even if you're good at doing this appropriately, you still got to pick your battles, and you still got to find the right time to do it. So I think that's the final point we wanted to make. And I hope this was helpful as we continue to kind of fight our battle with making a difference in the culture that we live in. I don't like the fact that, Christian, you're 17 going on 18. No, that's right. Your audio will still work.
No, it just died.
That's okay. So I still don't like the idea that you're growing up in this culture where it's normal for everybody to hate each other.
Yeah, it's your fault.
It is my generation's fault. I hate that. I don't want that for you. I want you to grow up in a culture where it's more the way that God designed it to be. But it's just so not that way right now. So Christians, if you've got some work to do when it comes to this, if you're judging people unnecessarily, or maybe you're going about it the wrong way, time to stop. Time to internalize this. Quit being a hypocrite. Internalize what Jesus is teaching and correct your actions, correct the way that you're doing it. Choose to pick your battles versus fighting every single battle as soon as somebody says something that you don't like. Christian, any final words?
Nope.
If we could all just be a little bit more Christ-like, this world would be a lot better place to live. Guys, we love you. We'll see you next week. Comment below. Share this with your friends. I paid $10, and I don't think we gained like one subscriber. So we've got some work to do. So go out there and subscribe and share it and help us promote this thing like crazy. All right. Until next week, be well, my friend.
Bye.
Your love